All right. Good evening and welcome to everyone online. I'm Sienna Abdullah Hatta, Service Director for the Office of Multicultural Affairs here in the Carolyn Barber PR Center for Intercultural Life. And behind me, you can see that we have a live audience in person as well. I don't know if y'all want to wait. But we are all excited to welcome T from Crave Products and featured in the Dilemma of Desire to Tulane University virtually. And we're looking forward to your talk today. If you have questions and you're online, feel free to enter your questions in the Q&A box and they'll be moderated by our wonderful moderator, Dr. Janaki Flint. And in the meantime, we're going to hand it off to T.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. How many of you, just with a quick show of hands, oh, I can't see you anymore. I think, oh, okay. I just wanted to know, like, how many of you have seen the film? Okay, a good number of you. So a good number of you will be like, I don't know why this person is talking to us. So I'm gonna just give a little intro with myself about myself and walk through sort of my background. In a nutshell, I'm a sex toy designer. I design vibrators for a living. And however, I see myself as a design activist. And so some of you may be like, what does those two have to do with each other? And so I want to walk you through why I'm doing what I'm doing and how I got involved with the film. And perhaps there are some takeaways about pleasure that will be interesting to you all. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. You share. Why is this now? Here we go. Percent. All right. So can y'all see the full screen here? Yeah? Is that working? Yes? Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's see, how's the one? All right. So to start a little bit, if you've seen the film, you know that that film is about the dilemma of desire and how pleasure is a big dilemma for 51% of the population, predominantly people with vulvas and women. And even though when I started designing, I had no idea that I was going to end up designing vibrators and such. But as I was going through school, like many of y'all, I'm assuming you guys are all in different majors. Is that correct? You guys are majoring in different things? Yeah? Okay, very cool. I didn't know what path I was going to take, but I was just an industrial designer. Okay, so industrial designer was my background. I graduated from Georgia Tech. And basically, I just design products that people use. And eventually, as I kept working and kept working, I realized that I could do so much more with my skill set. And so, which has led me to my activism. And I want to use the word activism because for so many people, it is a very uncomfortable word. And I would say the problem with the word activism, people don't like to say it because there's a lot of myth around it. Okay. And I just want to talk about two of them right now because this will lead you to better understand why I do what I do and how you, as individuals, you don't have to be designing vibrators to be an activist. You can find your own way. Okay. And so one of the myths about activism is that I've learned is that people think you have to do really crazy stuff. Like, oh, I have to, be on a whaling boat and I have to ram other boats and I have to get arrested or I have to go to a third world country. These activism does not have to be that extreme. Okay. Activism, these are the things that we see. And so our mind immediately goes there. But there are so many ways of activism that are just humble little things. Like for me, it's just designing vibrators. Okay. And another myth around activism is that oftentimes people think activism is someone else's job. Like, oh, I'm just a designer. That's not my role. That's someone else. Or I'm just an accountant or whatever. But no, change has always been made by everyday people like you and I. Okay. And so I want you to get comfortable with that word because the reason I share this is that to better understand what I do, why I do what I do, is to understand that I design from a place of activism. And these are some of the folks I just want to kind of put out there to inspire you, because when I was going through school, I didn't know that a designer could be an activist. And as it started looking around, I realized there's so many ways to be an activist that I had no idea. Like, I didn't know you can be a PR activist. I didn't know you can be a disability activist. I didn't know you can be a hedge fund activist. Like, that is crazy to me that these folks are so good at what they do, but they were able to turn it into a way that it serves the greater good. Okay. And so I want you all to know that whatever skill set that you're learning, you can apply it in a way that is for good, and you can call yourself an activist if you want to use it, or you don't have to. Okay. And so for me, I call myself a design activist because for me, my definition, and this can be your definition, or if you're a designer, or you can find your own definition. But for me, design is about uplifting those who are underserved and underrepresented. And as an industrial designer, I noticed that there were a lot of products for women that were not being served. And so I was able to take my skill set of designing products that people use for the cause, which was designing for women and people with vulvas, and that became my activism. Okay. And for each and every one of you, you have that opportunity as well, that once you get really good at your skill set and you find a cause that you believe in, you can merge the two and be your own type of activist. And so you may have seen in the film, these are some of the things I designed early on in my career: hairbrushes for women, furniture, bikes, more furniture. And it wasn't until I was about 28 years old, after I had worked for a while in, corporation uh, machine, that I realized there were a lot more products that were not well designed, and mainly they fell into the categories of products for women, that products that are uniquely designed for the female experience. Things like breast pump. We have been feeding babies since the beginning of time, and yet to this day, breast pumps are so ancient that it's ridiculous. I believe in the last 5 years, I have seen much better breast pumps where women do not have to feel like milking cows. Okay. Breast pumps have gotten a lot better in its design. Seatbelts. This is a travesty. I don't know if you know this, but seatbelts were not actually designed for women. The ergonomics of a seatbelt were designed of like a medium-sized man. And so therefore women are much more likely to be seriously injured when in a car accident. This is still going on to this day. And then I looked at sex toys. This was an area I was just like literally WTF. I don't know if I can cuss, so I'll try not to. I could not understand why something for pleasure had to look so, I don't know how to say it, unimaginative and anatomical, when there's so many other better solutions out there. And in particular, less than 30% of women can actually orgasm through penetration alone. So when I looked at the products that were available, I was really confused. I was like, why is everything so phallic shaped? When that's not enough to get women off. Like that's not the only place, So that was kind of my starting point, in that I realized something needed to be done, and there's an opportunity that products could be better. And because as an industrial designer, I had the skill set and this interested me, I was able to bring the two together. And so I started a company a while back, 2008, which was jewelry meets sex toys. But then Crave purchased it, and I've been with Crave for the last 12 years. So I'm 42 years old now, so I'm hella old, okay? But sorry, first, but I have been working on pleasure products with Crave for the last 12, and these are some of the products I've designed. For me, it was about elevating what products could be visually, functionally, so that when people use these products, they don't have to experience shame or embarrassment. I think for the past generations, when we think about vibrators and sex toys, the idea of shame, that you knew you had to hide these products because they were so ugly and they were so embarrassing. You wouldn't be caught dead with it, with it out on your bed or on your nightstand. And that to me was ridiculous because that's not a good experience. If you imagine like every time, say for example, you wanted to swim, and when you purchased a swimsuit, you had to go into some seedy shop on the corner of downtown somewhere that made you uncomfortable. Like that would make you feel like something is wrong. Like I shouldn't be experiencing pleasure, you know? And so for me, it was so important to change not only how these products looked, feel, but also where we could get them. So for the last 12 years, I've been working on these products, and as a brand, the Vesper vibrator, which is a necklace meets vibrator, that Sienna is wearing, and Dr. Flint is also wearing, is probably the product we're best known for. Okay, we very much pioneered this pleasure jewelry category, and this is a really interesting product because it's obviously a necklace. So there is this fashion and statement element to it, but I would say it's more of a statement, you know, because as you know, what you wear on your body, what you choose to put on your body and to go out and show up in public with, very much says something about who you are, how you want to present to the world, and what you believe in. And to me, pleasure is is a statement. It is a celebration of self-love that you can wear, that you can adorn. But at the same time, I recognize not everyone may want to wear a vibrator necklace out, and that's cool. There's no right or wrong way. All right. And so the product, the chain, you can remove it. So it just becomes a slim external clitoral vibrator that you can leave at home. And it's made from premium materials like stainless steel, some of it's 24 karat gold. But all of it is that when you look at this, you don't feel embarrassed. You feel like, oh, this is really cool. And we've heard from people that they're like, oh, forget wearing lingerie, wear the Vesper, or like this made me feel so good. And these are some of the real reviews that we've heard from our customers, that that's a symbol of independence and self-care, and it's a beautiful accessory. And unlike other self-care products, I will never feel the need to stash my Vesper in a sock drawer. And some of the, and we hear this a lot, that it feels like empowerment. They feel like this is sexual empowerment around their neck. And so that is really, really powerful. And as a designer, for me to see this product to be so loved and celebrated, like it's extraordinary. For me, I'm very humbled by that. And soon enough, we started to see this product in pop culture, like just showing up. Like we are not a big company, and so we don't pay for these placements, which so often corporations do, to kind of get the product out there. But this was a product that kind of organically just had some kind of a following that started to end up in the hands of celebrities. I saw it on Janet Jackson. I literally died. Like I was like, oh my God. It was the most amazing moment. I remember she was actually accepting the MTV Music Award, the Vanguard Award. She made a whole speech about empowerment of women back in 28. This was 2017 or 2018, and she was wearing it. I was just floored. So this became part of pop culture. And just so you know, for context, the Vesper came out in 2014. Okay, so it's been around for a little bit. However, in the last few years, it's really picked up because I believe as a culture, we are feeling and experiencing this huge shift in how we think about pleasure. So not only was it in pop culture, but all that buzz literally also influenced retailers. Retailers are mainstream. Sephora just this month, early this month, started carrying vibrators online. That's insane. Like the idea of feeling that sexual wellness is some kind of a, dirty thing that you should not, touch or whatever is ridiculous. It is so archaic. Sexual wellness is wellness, and it's just taken way too long to earn that title. And these retailers to start carrying these products in their stores says something about how pleasure is now taking its rightful place as part of self-care. So that was around 20. So this is still happening. All that shift is happening. And if you see the film, I am one of four ladies who were featured um, as folks who are doing something about this inequality in pleasure. And I was featured as the industrial designer, and you may have seen me going around this airstream. So when the documentary was being filmed, I was actually on the Crave pleasure tour, which means that I drove and towed that thing, okay, which is also, it's basically, it's an old school airstream that we renovated into a pop-up shop, okay, and inside there's a vibrator bar where people can build their own vibrators, okay. And so we launched this tour in early 2018. So I was on the road for a while, and that was the same time the documentary was happening. And that was kind of where kind of stars aligned, and I was able to take part in this documentary. And I want to share with you, like this, we took this to so many places. We didn't take it to like small little uh, like niche sex shows or anything like that. We were part of major festivals. We were, outside of Coachella. We were in major design conferences. We were in actually CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, the largest electronics show in the world. And wherever we went, this Airstream pop-up shop created this atmosphere where people, when they walked in, they when they looked around, they suddenly knew they just knew that they didn't have to like whisper into the elevator. Like they didn't have to do that. They're like, oh my God, this is a freaking vibrator. Are you kidding me? I thought this was makeup. And people were just so excited. And one of the things I learned about this whole experience with me and my team, like even though I was towing the thing most of the time, but like my team would come out and meet me for these huge activations, is that no matter where we went, people were so ready to have a better conversation, and they welcome pleasure into their lives. They were so much more ready than you would ever think. We did not encounter, actually, okay, I encountered one person who didn't like what we were doing the whole time. I drove from San Francisco to Palm Springs to Portland to Chicago to um, Drexel University to New York and back. I had one person who didn't like what we were doing. Okay, so hey, not for everyone, but whatever. Um, and yeah, it was just this really, really great experience where we were able to engage people and let people see that pleasure doesn't have to be gross or nasty or looks like a penis or all those things that people traditionally think of when they think of sex toys. And they had fun. We had fun sayings. We had these signs. So, like I said, like I'm very much an activist. And so for us to have this airstream and have these little picket signs that people were able to hold up, like it was so much fun. And it was just a very different way of presenting pleasure so that it made it much more approachable to people. So this is now, we haven't done any activations, obviously, because of COVID for the last 2.5 years. Um, and I want to share a little bit about what I've learned about pleasure, from the last 12 years of designing these products and being on the road and talking to people about pleasure, about vibrators. And perhaps, there's something you can take away for yourself. And the first one is there's no right way to pleasure. Um, this was something I had to understand very quickly as a designer. Just because something worked for me, because people think, oh, you're a designer, so, you must, all these products must all work for you, or yeah, I personally test all these products, of course. However, I have to put my ego on the back burner, and just because something works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone. And so when you think about pleasure, you have to understand that what works for one person may not work for another, and that's perfectly okay. And there's no like normal way, things go. All right. So please know that it is incredibly diverse. And pleasure is a journey like everyone is on. Okay. The more I talk to people, the more I know that vast majority of people do not have it figured out. It is not like you are kept in the dark. So many people don't know how to talk about it because we weren't raised with the vocabulary to be able to talk about this. So please do not feel alone. Like if you feel clueless, chances are the person that you're with, they're also clueless. And that's okay. All right. It's a journey. Okay. And so getting to know your body and using your words to communicate what you like or don't like can really help you on that journey. And it's not your place to assume or judge other people's pleasure. Okay. Um, you know, Sometimes we can inadvertently make someone feel bad about liking something or not liking something. Okay. And I think in all my years of talking to people, some people have told me some really wild things, but it's not for me to judge. It's not for me. It's cool. All right. I just move on. All right. But there's no reason to make anyone feel bad about something that they like. Okay. And the next one is being curious is the key to exploring pleasure. The people that I've talked to who have the best sex lives, they are folks that are continually curious and wanting to explore what's out there. They're folks who are not like, I'm good. I know everything there is about sex in my body. You know, those people like, hey, they're happy where they are. That's fine. All right. But from my observations, that people who are continually curious and wanting to learn and explore, they seem to have some, they seem to be living pretty well. And oftentimes, because we don't know what we like, keeping an open mind can really help you figure out what it is that works for you. And the last thing I want to put out there is that please, please know that your pleasure is just as important as theirs. So if you have a partner, and I say this predominantly to women because historically and from what we've seen is that women often allow themselves to take a back seat when it comes to their own pleasure. Okay. They think they're there to please because of what they see on TV or porn. By the way, watching porn is not a bad thing, but if you're trying to learn how to have sex through porn is like trying to learn how to drive watching Fast and the Furious. It is just not a good idea. All right. Um, but what I've seen is that oftentimes women don't feel as empowered to ask for pleasure as much as men. And I want to put out there that pleasure is a two-way street. All right. If they're not making the effort to please you, okay, it's okay to stop midway and leave. I know that's a really wild idea. Okay. But you don't owe anyone to allow them to finish or not. If you're not feeling it, be like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. Get dressed, go home. So just know that your pleasure is for you to go after, to ask for, and if it's not bringing that, you don't have to say. So if you like tips like these, feel free to follow my company account, which is Love Crave, okay, where we really try to put some educational um, carousels and content that, that maybe could be helpful. Now, the last thing I want to do is to share with you a video called the Pleasure Manifesto. Okay. So at Crave, in addition to us building products, we also have these things called projects that if you go to our website at the very top, you'll see projects. And the Airstream, for example, is an example of this project that we did. One project we did is about the history of women's pleasure. And this one, I'd love to show you this a short, very short little video. It's called the Pleasure Manifesto. Think of this as like your personal pleasure coach. All right. If you're feeling down, you feel like you don't deserve it, like play this video. All right. So I want to see if this will actually play. Okay. Okay. All right. This is not playing very well. Okay, hold on.
Pleasure,
No,
pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. This is a pleasure manifesto.
Can y'all hear
It is
this?
a manifesto to your pleasure.
Because consent is too low a bar.
If we talk about pleasure outside of the sheets, we can bring it out of the shadows. You should never have to feel bad about whatever makes you feel good. Touch yourself. There is power in the tips of your fingers. When it comes to pleasure, one size does not fit all. Pleasure is not selfish. It is not indulgent. It is never a waste of time.
There is no equality without equality of pleasure.
The term guilty pleasure is an oxymoron. Enjoy yourself. You deserve it. You don't need a knight in shining armor or any kind of armor. It's hard to have good sex with someone wearing armor. I'm not sure if that's what it is. Be the best lover you've ever had. Be whoever the hell you want to be in the sheets or in the streets. Be your own greatest desire. Be your own great love. Turn yourself on. Ask for what you want, then get it. Find the words that empower you, then use them to get what you deserve. Own your pleasure. Own your pleasure. Own your pleasure. Own your pleasure. Own your pleasure.
Okay. All right. So that's it. So thank you all so much. Yeah. Can I answer any questions?
Thank you so much. Now we're going to ask Dr. Flint to join us as our moderator, and we will start with questions.
I don't see any questions in the chat.
There's one in the Q&A, Dr. Flint.
Okay. Thank you, whoever that. Okay. The suppression of the erotic and pleasure finding upon women is often considered as a source of power suppression upon female lives. This is particularly true among Asian women, in which self-pleasuring and self-related talks are stigmatized and often left undiscussed, even among mothers and daughters. Can you talk a bit about how you yourself, as a woman of Asian heritage, overcame such views to become a pleasure tool designer and vocal activist?
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for this question. Oh, this is a heady one. So for context, I am an immigrant. So my family came from Taiwan and I moved to the States when I was 6 years old. When I came to the States, I didn't move to like some progressive state like California. No, I grew up in Georgia, like the deep South, where I remember I was like one of 3 Asian families in the entire town. All right. And I share this in that my worldview when I grew up was from a certain place that I didn't fit in. I felt very much like an outsider. And so I think as a part of that, okay, I'll just be perfectly frank. I didn't have any friends, and people are like, oh, did you give into peer pressure? I'm like, no, because to give into peer pressure, you got to have peers, you got to have friends. I didn't have any friends. I'm not kidding. I really didn't have any friends. Okay. And in a weird way, that was kind of a blessing in disguise, because when you don't have external noise sometimes at you, judging you, telling you what to do, should or shouldn't think. I think for me, I became a more independent thinker. And I started looking around and evaluating right or wrong. I think especially kids and when we're young, we have a very sharp sense of justice and what's fair and what's not fair, what's okay and not okay. And through, my upbringing there, and yeah, I've endured a lot of, racial trauma and things like that, growing up in the South. And in a way that kind of strengthened my resolve uh, to one, get the hell out of there, and two, to not think, I guess in a way, to think more independently. If that makes sense, you know. And also, what helped is that as an Asian family, I came from a family. One, they're not religious, okay, because I know that there are a lot of religious overtones sometimes that causes people to have issues, with pleasure and things like that. So for my family, we didn't have that. And I also grew up in a family where both my parents were scientists, and they treated pleasure, they treated sex as in a very a matter-of-factly way, so that it wasn't like, oh, you're going to hell, you're, like it's a sin. It's like that wasn't there for me. Okay. They just treated like, yeah, it's a fact of life, just don't get pregnant and drop out of high school. That was kind of the extent in a very practical way. And so I think the combination of two, because growing up in an area that, yeah, I didn't have any friends, but it helped me to be a more independent thinker, and also growing up in a family that just didn't have more baggage onto pleasure really helped a lot.
Yeah, that was a powerful question and even more powerful answer. Thank you for sharing that. So I have one in the absence of anything. I don't see one in the Q&A yet. Oh, somebody just dropped one. What are some of the ways to begin having conversations about pleasure in communities of color, especially since it's typically taboo?
Oh, man, like I'm going to tell you, I don't know. Okay, I don't know. All right, because if I try to tell you anything, if anyone tells you like, hey, this is silver bullet, they're kind of full of shit. All right, you kind of have to be very careful how you approach this, because every family and every community is very different. Okay, you have to read the room. You have to you have to honestly listen more than you speak. Okay, or and even before you start speaking. Okay, um, some things that help. All right, and I think this is why I approach my activism through beautiful products, is that I I recognize that, look, we all like beautiful things. We like pretty things. We like shiny things. We like jewelry. We like things that make us feel good. And jewelry was kind of like this object that I kind of tuned into emotionally. Like when people put on something that they love, piece of jewelry or like a designer jacket or something, you kind of have that extra oomph in your step, you kind of feel good. And it's like walking out of the hair salon, right? And I kind of tuned into that. And by having something beautiful, like an object like that, people were more willing to wear it out, and people feel less threatened than if you handed them a big old rabbit or a big old dildo. You know what I mean? Like that's just, it's kind of awkward to start that conversation. You're just like, here's a big deal, like, whereas you have something like that that's an easier on ramp to have that discussion. Now, I'm not doing a selfless, shameless promotion here, like, oh, buy a Vesper and it'll be fine. I'm saying like there are other ways, such as, for example, you can watch like a movie, for example, and a scene comes on. You can be like, oh, that's interesting. What did you think about that? Or you can forward articles to, to family members. Just so you know, what's really interesting, the way that I launched the company, Crave, is that in 2011, we had the world's first crowdfunded vibrator. Okay. This is 2011. I know these days everybody's crowdfunding everything, right? But we had the world's first crowdfunded vibrator. And one of the reasons why we did this is that when you saw this, article, you're like, oh, cool, I can forward it to someone. Like, it's not like saying, I just masturbated or I just use this vibrator, here, get one. But it is like, hey, this is a cool, crazy project, like, check it out, and it got people talking. All right. That's for the same reason why we had this crazy idea of doing this Airstream. You create this event that is so, cool and like crazy that like people can't help but talk about it. And next thing you know, that starts conversation. And we've received letters from couples that were like, yeah, like your product or your event or something, or I forwarded this article to my wife, and that started a conversation that we needed to have for a very long time. So there are a lot of different ways that you have to kind of read the room and see what's right for you and your partner, okay, or your family.
Thank you. So we have a few now. How would you suggest someone who has never indulged in self-pleasure start that journey? That's a good one.
That is a really, really good question. Okay. Well, first, please know that you deserve it. All right. You deserve it. You were born with the capacity and the organs to experience pleasure. Okay. So, the film, if you haven't seen the film, is a great place to start because there's so many other um, 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 folks in the film that are also starting that journey. Okay, you see actually this progression of how they started their journey. Okay, um, so there is not one like to do, but first start with knowing that you deserve it. You do not have to have any hangups about that, and then start trying things. Very simple things from looking at yourself in the mirror to start looking at YouTube channels of sexologists or sex educators that will give you more information. Um, you know, some people, watch porn, or it's all very, very different. So I'm not saying that there's one right way, but just start to explore.
Thank you for that. The next question is, a few of us already have Vespers, and we were wondering if you have, or could make a video to clean them for IG. Let me tell you, that's a good one right
That's a
there.
great question. All right. Okay. So let me tell you. Okay. So the Vesper, the base metal is stainless steel. Okay. So if you think like the silverwares you use, all that stuff. Okay. I'm not saying don't put it in the dishwasher. Okay. It is not waterproof. So please do not do that. All right. But because it's stainless steel, all right, it's non-porous. And so anything you want to wipe it clean, just use water. Okay. Do you want to use a little bit of soap? All good. And just wipe it down. Don't submerge it. Just wipe it clean. You can use paper towel. You can use a soft towel, like all of that. It's fine. It'll just come right off basically. Yeah. You can run it under the sink. Just don't submerge it. Like, and the button part, because it's made out of silicone does not like other products that have silicone in it. Okay, so if you have a soap with silicone ingredients or a silicone lubricant, those things can destroy it. Okay, it'll like make your button like fluffy and like it's no good. So just use water. I usually just use warm water and then just like wipe it clean. So that's it. If you want to use alcohol just to take another level, that's fine too. So that's up to you. It's actually really, really simple. It's just wipe.
Okay, so easy to clean. Okay, the next one, this is question says this is more of a design question than anything else. But what's your design philosophy and iterative process like in an industry commonly seen as taboo?
This is a great question. Well, this is called user testing. All right. And user testing, my design philosophy is that I design products to serve people. Okay. Because what I design is mass manufactured in hundreds of thousands. Okay. And if it doesn't work, it goes to the landfill. And that is not okay. All right. I'm not making products for my ego. I'm making products to serve people. Okay. So the user testing process is extremely, extremely core for how I approach this. It's not just a one-time thing. All right, we do user testing over and over again, from an early idea to, when it's halfway designed, to before manufacturing, and even just to figure out what is that people love, or is this a dumb idea? We should just kill it early on. We've killed a lot more ideas than we've made, and that's the way it should be. And so that iterative process that you talk about, that is user testing, and that is core to how I design products. So yeah, and so the user testing we do, maybe just to give a little light, because people are often really interested in, like, how do you do user testing? Because it's not something like a washing machine or a printer where you can, in traditional user testing, you can like watch people, load the laundry, or like, print something. If we observe people using this, it'd be kind of creepy for some people. It would change their behavior. So we do it in such a way that they use it the way they like to use it, and we get really good at figuring out what questions to ask, whether it's an interview, whether it's an online questionnaire, whether whether a partner is necessary or whatever it is. But we have a unique process to get insights to make sure that our products are really loved by people, and not just because we think it's cool and we want to put something with Bluetooth in it or something like that. I know a lot of companies do that. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I hope so too. It was a really good one. I don't see any others here. But I'd like to know how you see this kind of, because you're a design activist, but I also see you as a pleasure activist as well. And how do you see this kind of evolution happening? What do you see in the future? How do you see Love Crave being a part of it, in terms of the place of women in society? I mean, there was a time when we couldn't even have these conversations. And like you said earlier, it would be kind of stamped in this shame bubble. So where do you see us going?
I see this shift of sexual wellness, vibrators, and anything that falls in that realm, pleasure products, being accepted as part of the wellness. And the fact that as Sephora started carrying vibrators online, all right, we've been in Nordstrom for the last year and a half, all right. You can get our products online at Urban Outfitters, okay. This is an acceleration of changing these novelty products into sophisticated products that, just like anything else you would have in your life, like a cell phone or whatever it is. And they're now being sold at mainstream places where there is no shame and stigma around it, that you don't have to feel uncomfortable with some weird dude on the side, I don't know, doing what, when you walk in, and, you see like bachelorette stuff along with like, hookahs and stuff like that. It's presented in a comfortable setting where you, as a shopper, you feel comfortable walking in to purchase, a nice shirt and buy, this. And so I can see this even in, Walmart and Target already carry vibrators. They're not great looking, but like, it is what it is. But I can just see that accelerate even faster. So, yeah, I would love to see the day where you see beautiful, great vibrators next to toothbrushes and things like that. Because for me, it's not about like making things luxurious or inaccessible. Like, we want to make things well designed and manufactured, and we try to make this extremely accessible in the places that you can buy, and also the price point. This is not a $300 vibrator. This is like, $69. And like,
Right.
So it's not, yeah. So I just see that as being adopted. This is part of this wave of feminism, and that's happening now. Yeah.
We have a question in the room, I see.
Okay, this broadcast.
I'm nervous.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Hi. my question is, how do you get over that like initial awkwardness of asking for what you want and what you like in the middle of sex? Because it's one thing to know what you're deserving of and what you want to happen, but it's another one to be like, hang on a minute, let's talk about this with our big people words face to face.
That's great. That's awesome. Okay, so, okay, just think about when you are about to have a difficult conversation with someone, okay? You don't just like shout it out. You kind of like wait to see when is a good time, right? And what I've learned, all right, and also some psychologists and sex educators also recommend this, is that when you're having a conversation about something, intimate, it may not be the best time when you're still in bed and like just having experienced the heat of the moment kind of thing, because everything is kind of vulnerable and open and emotional and things like that. Wait till you all have like calmed down a bit. Maybe you're grocery shopping, and be like, so you want to find like a good time, to do this, and when you're less emotionally charged. So that's one thing. The time and place, really matters. And hopefully, your partner or the partner that you're with they must, care about what you have to say. Because if they don't, they're not for you, hon. Like they ain't the one, right? Pleasure's a two-way street. Okay. And please know that. And I know, I was kind of joking, but not really, in that like, you don't, if you're not feeling it, you can just get dressed and leave. And don't buy into the whole blue balls shit, okay? Because that's not a thing. I mean, okay, fine. Medically, I think they said that it's a thing, but it affects like 1% of people. And the equivalent also happens in women. Like, yeah, if we're horny, we don't get off, we're gonna have a discomfort here. But we're not like using that to guilt trip someone into having sex with us, right? So no, like don't buy into that. All right. Sorry. I just listened to a really great podcast about that. Blue Balls from NPR. So y'all should like listen to that. So yeah, I kind of digress, but hopefully, that helps.
Yeah, thank you for that one. Yeah. So we have someone else, a design and in parentheses and marketing question again. But the
Yeah.
film mentioned your sort of struggle in marketing on social media in the early stages, but I don't believe it covered exactly how that was resolved. So how was it resolved, and what do you feel this looming and in parentheses and existing purification of the internet may mean for how pleasure is viewed?
I wish I can come with you with a resolution. There isn't. In fact, things are actually escalating. All right. Because so just so you know, like as a company, Crave, our account is at Love Crave. We're able to post things. Okay. However, Instagram will not promote certain things. We as a company, we can't promote, we can't sponsor, we can't do ads, we can't boost anything. Like all of that as a brand for us, like we've been around for like 12 years, that has never been available to us. Okay. Now, take this another level. Just last month, the New York Times came out with an article, okay, where a nonprofit called Center for Intimacy Justice did a survey of 100 companies, over 100 companies, all right? Not just like, oh, sex toy companies or sex workers or things like that. No. These are women's healthcare providers of pelvic floor, menopausal, menstruation. All of these providers, 100% were denied any type of evidence. So this is a tragedy, because this is not just, oh, these sex toy companies can advertise. This is a women's health issue. It's not resolved. In fact, we as a brand, I put out a video on Love Crave's account about a month ago, because as of January, Vibrator is now a banned hashtag. Masturbation is a banned hashtag. Sex positive is a banned hashtag. And then on the reverse, I learned that hashtag guns, AK-47. These are still allowed. Like I'm just like short of erupting. You know the depth of wrongness here, all right? And it's still not resolved, unfortunately, because these companies, Facebook, Meta, Instagram, they have succeeded in becoming a social platform and connecting everyone. That's the problem. And they're not owning to the fact that it's now become such a ubiquitous platform that it is where everyday conversations are happening. It is where people are getting their information. And now they're censoring what they think is morally okay. And it is just outrageous. Um, so yeah, like, please read this article. It's on New York Times. I can forward it on to someone, but I'm sure you can Google and find it. But it's just this insane double standards of like dick pills, Viagra, all that stuff is totally fine. Whereas, pelvic floor, menopausal, services, products, not okay. It's considered adult and considered, it is just outrageous. So this is the next level that we're
I
still fighting.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Even like I was thinking about like in my field of psychology,
Mhm.
there's not nearly enough written about self pleasure, right? Or pleasure and how pleasure is linked to so many things. Although there are many studies out there that even talk about like mindful masturbation and how, orgasms are directly linked to better self-esteem, better image, lower blood pressure, like all these things that are really studied by real scientists, really. And PubMed has one on just brain activity and
Yeah.
how many different areas of the brain literally light up all at the same time when there's an orgasm happening,
Yeah.
and how it's released, reduce stress, like all these things, but we don't get.
That is like such a huge thing when you're on your period, like, and also it is nature's best Ambien. Like, if you can't sleep, seriously, get off.
You're
You
going
will
to sleep.
sleep, right?
That yes, because prolactin is released, so you're definitely going to sleep. So it's so like ridiculous. I agree with you. Like, I just think that there needs to be more. But then, I can also say that, hey, I can actually put out more.
So whatever works for you, but yeah, like pleasure
Yeah.
is masturbation 100% has health benefits that you can look all day long. And yeah, and there are a lot of, you want to do the research, you want to find educators, and doctors such as Dr. Flint, who can give you information. Okay. And, this is we now live in an age where you can watch YouTube and you're a freaking expert, and like the information is out there. Just go and educate yourself and explore and have fun.
Thank you so much. So much, so much. Very educational, very informational. And I love your products.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, now I'll turn it back over to Sienna.
Thank you, Dr. Flint. Thank you so much for being here. This has been amazing. I think the group here has really enjoyed the conversation and engaging with y'all. We have some Vespers to give away. So we have some in the room with us. And for the folks who are online, please don't jump off when we stop. I want to make sure I capture your attendance so that we can get you your Vespers as well. We have 15 to give away to our online guests, and we're giving away 10 to folks who are here today. And I know Dr. Flynn already has one, so there's no need to give another one. Unless you want a different color, unless you want a different color. I don't have the fancy gold one, but I do have the white, the silver one.
Yeah, I got the rose gold.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. But it's been wonderful. We hope you have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
You too, and feel free to connect with my company account or my account at designer TI, one word. Happy to just stay in touch. So yeah, thank you for
Absolutely.
having me. Had a great time. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.